Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits and happy Chanukah! Here in my 2 steam pans, I have 8 cups of water in each pan and I just added 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. Today we are going to have fun layering a lot of colors on top of one another for sort of like a watercolory type effect. I pre-soaked 3 full skeins of the Wool to Die For Platinum Sock and DK yarn. The yarn is 75% Superwash Merino, 25% Nylon, and it's the yarn base that I'm using for the whole Chanukah special this year. In addition to 300 grams of full skeins, I have 300 grams or 30 mini skeins that I pre-soaked. Also in fingering and DK. The mini skeins are shorter than the full skeins, so you'll see that things have to be scrunched a bit more here in order to be out in the pan, whereas the minis, since they're shorter, do not need to be scrunched up quite as much here in the back pan. Today our focus is on yellow. I have some Jacquard Bright Yellow, Jacquard Golden Yellow, but then I'm also going to use some other colors, some hints of Dharma Frozen, Jacquard Brown, and Jacquard Aztec Gold. Yellow is one of those colors that it is really, really easy to shift it to say orange or green versus feeling like it is still in that yellow family. I think it's because even though when bright and pigmented, once you get that yellow super saturated, it does read orange. So to get a saturated pigmented yellow with some depth and tone without the whole thing turning orange or green is the goal. Now, I don't mind there being some hints of brown and green in here today. It is currently fall when I'm filming this, and I don't mind that feeling and emotion being in the yarn. But I do want the character of the yarn to remain yellow. So that's what we're aiming for today. To keep some of these other tones present but not overwhelming the yellow, I'm going to make some dilute versions of this brownish gold, a brown, and the blue. In these 4-ounce bottles, they are filled with some water. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And add 15 drops of the pigmented color. This is not very much. I might decide I want to put more in, but this is where we're going to start. Yeah, approximately 15. To 16 drops. Each of these colors are from 1% stock solutions, and the dilution is going to allow us to spread out these colors and tones more onto our yarn. So if I were to just drop the blue on directly as it is, it would be beautiful but pigmented, and I really want the yellow to overwhelm it. And Aztec Gold is sort of yellow on its own, but again, I want to bring some other undertones and shifts in here. While we're at it, I have a suspension of some Jacquard Golden Yellow. 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay. I figured I may as well make a similar dilution with this color and then decide if I want to go heavier with that color or focus on being more heavy with the bright yellow color. I did not dilute the Jacquard Ecru, and you've seen me talk about this color a few times, but you'll see why in a moment. Like, you can barely see this color as it is. So therefore, it's not important for me to dilute it because it is effectively diluted already. Now, I am curious how the ecru compares to the dilution of brown we made. And the brown we made, again, this is very, very subtle on the yarn. But this brown color is more yellow, I think, already. And this is just really bringing in some real pastel tones already. And I can easily make up more of it as I go and add more and more color onto the yarn. Now here is some of that golden yellow that I mixed up, and this is looking nice and yellowy on its own. I'm not sure if that will really imprint on the yarn in the way we're doing this or not. It's possible that I'm going to want to go straight with that golden yellow. Okay, so that was the dilute golden yellow. Here is some dilute Aztec gold, which also is barely registering right now. So that's another color as well that I may want to go in a little heavier with a little more punch. But we're laying down a really subtle base. The frozen looks rather pigmented, but right now as I layer it on, you can see, you know, it is very, very pale, because we're going right now for something subtle for this base. And, you know, if I think it's too subtle, I can go in and add more, but it being in these bottles allows me to lay it down. And then, again, we can decide what we want more of as we lay on the rest of the color. I love Jacquard Bright Yellow. It stays really, really well in a stock solution. And now, here we go. The first layer. I'm just squirting, this is again a 1% stock solution, it all over the yarn. And we're not even quite at temp yet, we are still warming up. So hopefully that should help some of these colors spread out a bit. And I think that I probably will be going in with some more pigmented of some of the other yellows. I'm bringing my trusted spoon over to help me spread this out. But by squirting the yarn, or by squirting the yellow on like this and then sort of giving it a minute, it's allowing a little bit of time for some uneven absorption of color, which also will bring depth and dimension to this yarn. But I am really, really happy with that like little hint of some green that we have in here. And the browns are extremely, extremely subtle. I'm going to need to add more yellow, I think, onto the mini skeins. It is either it's striking a bit faster over here, or because I got to it second, maybe I didn't even add as much. But I'm going to add some more color there and come back in a minute. So of all the colors that we have layered on so far, the blue stands out the most and shifted it the most. But let's go ahead and add. So this is the golden yellow. And I'm adding it, and then I'm sort of adding it in drips. And then using my spoon to help it spread out. And then it's still staying there. But, you know, it's looking a little less bright and orange than it did initially when going on. And it might even be a little subtle for you guys. But I promise that you can see it. But just again, adding some little extra tone to it. Okay, I'm very sparingly gonna go in with some Aztec gold. Also, actually, I don't mind it like this. On its own, it isn't necessarily my favorite color, but layered with that yellow, I think that that is giving us some nice, it's sort of bringing what I'm hoping for it. It's actually bringing in some nice brownish tones, but leaving us with a yarn that overall still you look at and you say, hey, that's yellow, and that is our goal. There might still be a hint of yellow on the other side, but I am going to go ahead and flip this. Oof. Yeah, you can see some yellow, and we are warm but not like wildly hot yet, so I can actually do this with my fingers, but do take care in a hot pan. Oof, I really, really like what's happening. Okay, I made up some more blue, but this time I only used about half as much of the dye in here, so I used about 8 drops, which still gives some tone to the yarn, but it allows it to be even more subtle than what we saw on the other side. And again, if you want more, you can always add more. And I've got our ecru. Yay! Used something up. That always makes me happy. And I think the 2 different yellows that I did dilutions of don't make a huge difference, but I am still, because I mixed them, am adding them onto our yarn. Because with those other yellows, I ended up going in with more of the tones, just sort of straight from the containers. But now it is yellow time. I really like this color, and I think that this bright yellow color also is awesome because it does not, like it behaves well as a stock solution versus crashing out, and so that makes me obviously very happy. Sun yellow is a lot more of a pain to deal with in the Jacquard line. When I do this, one of the reasons why I add colors in on angles like this is so that way it makes it a non-repeating kind of colorway, because on the yarn, like the distance between the different colors will be different going around. Now, as we make these into mini skeins, we'll be able to see how balanced things feel, but I think it's just a fun sort of way to play with these colors. And we're coming in with that Aztec gold. So there's definitely some orange kind of notes in here. But again, we are yellow. This is a yellow colorway, and I am really, really happy about that. Oof. I am really, really liking this. It is like subtle, like there's some pops in here, but you would almost call this like a, I don't know, like it's got texture to it. So when you knit with it, there's going to be dimension and more than just more than just like a tonal with one color. So I'm not sure if you would still call it a tonal, but this is a subtle colorway that would work with a lot of different types of patterning and things like that. I'm just going in with some more yellow. I might move the yarn around another time and add some more color, but I'm gonna go add some more yellow to the mini. I haven't taken much of a break on the colorway yet, but I think I'm going to go ahead and let everything sit for 10 minutes. It's really subtle, and I think some of the levels aren't even necessarily picking up on camera, but I am happy, guys. You guys, I am so happy right now. You know that feeling when you have a colorway in your head and you're like, oh man, I really, really hope that I can achieve this. And then you do. It just feels wonderful. Okay, I still see, I'm checking for areas that could use more color, but even so, there's a few areas. But overall, I am extremely, extremely happy with this colorway so far, even with those paler patches. I am going to add, I think, a bit more color though. Yeah. See, it's why it's always worth checking one more time to make sure you are happy with the color. I just like breaking up big sections. There. Woohoo! And I'm gonna do the same thing to the minis, even though they've been like barely on camera during this time. But I am so happy. Okay, I am going to go ahead and add another 2 tablespoons, yeah, a little more, since I have it in the cup, of white vinegar to each pan, and let things simmer here for 15 minutes to absorb the rest of that color. I am excited. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the heat. And the water is looking really clear, but even so, yeah, the water is looking clear. Even so, I am going to leave the yarn in here to cool off, and then once it's cool, we can go and wash it. Let's wash our yarn. I know it might be weird to be doing such a fall-inspired colorway when Chanukah is very much in the winter this year. But for my eldest son, his first Chanukah actually took place over Thanksgiving. And I'm not sure that Thanksgiving like that has ever really happened in my lifetime otherwise, but certainly the one time I really took note because it was significant for us. And so that's one thought into here today. But also, literally outside my window is the most beautiful yellow tree. So that is inspiration as well. But so far, with some soap, I see no bleeding. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this yarn a couple more times, rinse out that soap, put it through my spin dryer, and then hang it up to dry. I have been really into playing with yellow lately. And I have to say, I am so excited that we achieved this vibrant golden yellow, but the yarn does not feel orange. We've got some hints of brown and green and orange in here, but this yarn is predominantly yellow. When I zoom in, this tonal nature is really subtle. There's some butter yellow in here, but mostly it is the vibrant saturated yellow that is honestly a tiny bit hard to pick up on camera. Whenever I get color requests or least favorite color requests, the top 3 colors tend to be orange, yellow, and brown. And, you know, honestly, those aren't colors that I pick the most often myself. Well, I love brown, but yellow and orange are 2 colors I don't pick a lot. And so I really wanted to challenge myself to create some yellows that I find gorgeous and that I want to play with. And this is one of those yellows. I do truly wish that it was easier to say speckle with yellow, but because of the color, it's one of those that's really hard, like really pigmented. It'll read orange, not yellow. And so, yeah, I'm beyond thrilled with how this turned out. Here are the 3 full skeins, and honestly, I'm sure that there are some differences. These are asymmetric, non-repeating colorways. Well, actually, I'm not sure if they're asymmetric. They're definitely non-repeating colorways, but is there a balance? I think it would be really hard to tell, and even when I convert these in mini skeins for the yarn samplers, I still think I wouldn't be able to lay out those minis and be like, ooh, here's an obvious fade or something like that. I think overall these skeins are fairly balanced. I'm not sure how well some of these greens and more brown areas are showing up on camera, but in person, I think knit up, this will look yellow, but then you'll see these pops and little shifts of tones through there that'll be really subtle. And I think that a lot of complex patterns would show up really well on a yarn like this. Let me know in the comments what colors you avoid that maybe you want to try to take another look at. I challenge all of you to play with colors that you don't usually play with and try to find ways that make you excited and that you think are really beautiful. I know that challenging myself to go outside of my purple comfort zone is wonderful, and I think I've grown a lot as an artist by doing this. Again, I'm not sure how well the camera is picking it up, but you can really see some of this variation in the mini skeins once I've twisted them up. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode of the 2019 ChemKnits Hanukkah special. I hope that you are enjoying these nightly videos. Stay tuned because there is more content each night on Hanukkah at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. There is a whole playlist of all the videos, so if you missed one, don't worry, you can go and catch up. I am having so much fun creating these colorways, and I hope you are enjoying them as much as I am. Subscribe, like, turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a new video. And if you want to support ChemKnits on another level, go and check out the ChemKnits Patreon. You can get behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, early access to new content, and vote to help shape the way that the Dye Pot PS series goes. And honestly, runners-up from those polls tend to make it higher up in my filming queue for the Dye Pot Weekly series as well. You can find a link to the Patreon in the video description and iCard. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and happy Hanukkah!